Hello, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to walk through how to call methods from the server script in the client controller. Then we will display the response in the template. All right, let's get started. Here I create a page. Let me find it, a demo page here. Let's open that. Right now, it's an empty page. So let's create a template. Let's open up that template and open up the server script. So we'll start here. Here, let's create a function so that we can call it from the client script. Okay, let's go. We'll call this let's create a new function. And then for this function, we want to grab all the active tasks for a particular user. So we'll name it get active task for user. And then we want to pass in the user ID. Here we're going to return new task. So this is the repository. It's a script include that basically handle CRUD operations on the task table. We want to pass in the encoded query. Active is true. Assigned to is assigned to the user ID. Here we don't want all the records back, so let's set a limit. And then we want to get multiple. Here we want to pass in the true flag. This allows us to serialize the glide record object so that it can be returned to the front end. And as you notice here, it's this server script is returning an object. And unless this function is returned, we will not be able to call it from the client script. So let's go ahead and return this. And this is a good approach in a sense that you can have private function, private methods that will not expose to the front end. And only what you return back is what's available. All right, let's jump over to our client script now. Let's modify this function here. Let's call this the same name in the server script. So we'll call this get active task. And we want to pass in the scope object, the page scope object, so that we can modify it, allowing the template to display the data returning from the database. So we're going to use the Hopper .service, and then we want to call the call method. Here we're going to pass in the name of the methods here. So let's go ahead and paste that. And then we want to pass parameters back. In this instance, I already have a sysid, a user sysid, so I'm gonna go ahead and paste that into here. And this is expecting an array. So you can pass back as many arguments as you need to. All right, that's it. Actually, we have to return this method to the template as well. So it's basically following the same pattern as the server script. All right, now that's is good for the client script. Let's move on to the HTML template. All right, here, let's go ahead and open up our components here. Let's add a button. So when we want to click this button, we want to call the get active task, this method from the client script, and then in turn, it will make a service call to the server and return the data that we need. Let's call this get task. And here we want a list to display all the tasks that gets returned. But first, we only want to display the list if the object is not empty, right? So if the task exists, then we want to display it. So for the if statement, we have to wrap it in the template tag. And then here we want to display a list. We don't need the subheader. And since this is going to be a for loop, we're just going to leave one element. And the same apply for the for loops. We have to wrap it inside the template tag as well. And this is a Alpine.js syntax. Call it task in scope dot model dot task. Here we go. And then we want to remove this text. Let's add the x text equals. And here we want to display the number. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so you can see that we have an error happening in our client script, basically saying in order for us to use the await, the async decorator must be, the function must have an async here. So let's go to the client script and add async here. And actually, we actually need to bind the click event to the button. All right, you see that the get active task for users, this is the method that was returned from the client script. So we can go ahead and call this and bind this to our button. And then we want to pass in the scope object here. So let's save this. And here we are. Let's click a button and we return all the a list of all the tasks that was requested.